Alright, how's it going, guys? It is Blake, finally back from the evidentries.com or thephantompages.com now. At long last today, we're going to be continuing more of Teal Swan's The Completion Process. It's been a while since my last reading upload. Again, I'm not sure how sporadic I'm going to be with these, honestly, because finding the time to do some of these chapters is very difficult considering my days are just absolutely packed now, so yeah, you'll have to bear with me as I try and figure out a good system, good sort of schedule to just continue these, but rest assured I am going to be finishing this book as well as the Kybalion, and more content is going to be on the way. So anyway, without too much chit-chat, we're going to hop into the chapter for today. This is a very long one. I think it's about 13 pages, so it's going to be a lot of information. It is late at the time that I'm recording this, about 4 o'clock in the morning, so I might sort of speed run through this one a little bit. I'm not going to rush through it, but I'm going to probably try my best to read a little faster than normal, because at the same time I don't want this recording to be too long. But again, this will always remain here for you to go back, listen through it again. Since it's a long chapter, I probably won't take any notes or highlight anything, but if there's anything that sticks out, I'll do my best to remember it, and we could talk about it a little bit at the end if I still have the energy to do so. So chapter 6 is steps 1 through 6, safe haven, accessing the memory. When the trauma we experience is buried deep within us, we are often not even aware that it is there. However, we experience that reflection of that buried trauma as emotional reactions in our day-to-day life. These reactions are painful, and so we behave just like we did when we experienced the original trauma. We do anything we can to get away from the way we feel and attempt to feel better instead, but this sets us up to spend our lives trying to escape from ourselves and trying to avoid facing the way we really feel. When we commence healing with the completion process, we move forward, guided by the tenet that the only way out is in. We first lay the scaffolding. We first lay the scaffolding upon which the rest of the process is built. We begin the practice of using our feeling reactions to help us find and willingly re-experience the memories that are casually linked to them. We learn how to be completely and unconditionally present with ourselves. Following the 6-step process are presented in full detail so you can understand the importance of each one and how to proceed through them. As mentioned, please read through all the steps in chapters 6 through 8 before starting to actually do the completion process. This way you will know what to watch for when you are ready to proceed. Step 1. Create a safe haven. The first step sets up a safe haven. This first step sets up a safe haven in your mind and also creates a primary safe support figure. This step is critical because so many of us on Earth don't feel safe. This is especially true when we are dealing with traumatic memories of any kind. When we start the completion process by setting up a safe haven within our minds, we then have a place that is within our control and that we can visit at any time. We only have to do this one time, unless we wish to add more elements to the safe place or create an entirely new one. If we have already set up a mental safe haven, we can commence the completion process each time we do it by starting instead with step 2. Our safe haven acts as a foundation for the completion process, giving us a stable base camp from which to do our retrieval work. It's crucial that we provide this kind of secure place so that the missing aspects of ourselves it's crucial that we provide this kind of secure place so that the missing aspects of ourselves that we are retrieving from our memories will be able to return safely. By creating this safe haven in our minds, we are able to bend the physical rules that govern and restrict us in our physical life. For example, a cut on our arm might usually take 2 weeks to heal in physical life, but in our safe haven we can put a special salve on it, and it can heal before our eyes. This kind of magical thinking is a critical ingredient when we are healing from states of powerlessness. You'll find that a child who experiences trauma almost always feels some degree of powerlessness. Therefore, when our child self is able to experience a thoughtscape where anything is possible, that thoughtscape experience is healing to the child in and of itself. As for creating the safe haven, keep in mind that this will be an intensely individual place, therefore there's no right or wrong way to create it. We need to allow our minds to reveal to us what would feel best. For very specific reasons, I've designed the mental process of setting up the safe haven in the way I described below. But don't be afraid to bend or change the process according to your needs or the needs of the person you are helping or facilitating. For example, when I walk people through the completion process, I ask the person to imagine walking through a tunnel to get to their safe haven. This creates a necessary and believable mental separation between the physical memories and the safe haven. But if a client has been through a war or had negative experiences with tunnels or caves, then using the image of going through a tunnel would present a negative association and negate the feeling of safety we wish to create. So if you know that you or the person you're helping has sensitivities to certain common images, then design an entrance and safe haven in a way that truly feels secure. That feels fully secure. Another construct I like to use in the safe haven is to ask the person to create a water feature where they will later experience the healing and purification of water. But if water makes someone feel unsafe, then of course I would change the suggestion to some other element or substance. If possible, it's best to construct your safe haven by having someone else walk you through it so that your concentration is not broken by having to refer back to the written text. Your friend or practitioner might read you the guided meditation below, or you could record yourself recording the words slowly and gently, and then play it back. Here is some sample of the words that I often use when helping someone create a safe haven in their mind. Listen to the words as a guide to help you set up your safe haven. Creating your safe haven, guided meditation. As you take this first step in the completion process, begin by making yourself as comfortable as possible, either sitting in a chair or lying flat on the bed or on the floor. Gently close your eyes. Allow the weight of your body to settle down toward the earth. Take a few deep breaths, and let go a little bit more on each exhale. Now allow your breath to settle and find its own natural rhythm. If you notice the body or the mind tensing around your experience, gently let go again without judgment. And now imagine that you are walking along a path. You are inexplicably drawn along this path. It is leading you to your own sanctuary, where you can always come to experience peace and safety. Look down at your feet. What kind of path are you walking on? What is it made of? Is it made of stone or wood? Is the pathway that leads to another galaxy or dimension? Perhaps it has been specially made out of some other material that is not yet known to this world. It is strewn with something, such as flowers, petals, or shells. Is the path narrow or wide? See and feel this path in your mind. As you continue walking along the path, breathe freely and easily. Sense your anxieties and stresses and pressures fade away. They are unable to follow you here. Up ahead, you notice a secret entryway that only you can see. This entryway is the door leading you to your very own safe haven. How is this entryway concealed? Perhaps it is a wooden door conveyed in ivy. Perhaps it is a portal that opens and closes when you say a magic word. Maybe it's a cave entrance that appears in the snow. Imagine or sense this unique secret entryway, revealing itself only to you as you approach it. Then walk through the entryway. As your eyes adjust to the light, you realize that you are now walking or being pulled through a secret tunnel or portal. What does this tunnel look like? Is it a wormhole in space? Is it a cave in the ocean? Is it a tunnel made of dirt and stones? What do the tunnel walls look like? Are they covered with beautiful exotic flowers? Is the tunnel made of metal or some other man-made material? Is the tunnel made of swirling energy? Just experience a secret, sacred tunnel that leads you to your very own safe and sacred place. You continue the walk through the tunnel, and suddenly you see your perfect sanctuary for the very first time. You step into it, and you can hear or feel or see the tunnel close behind you so that no one may follow. In a space that is created by the mind, there are no limits whatsoever. This place can be as real or as imagined as your soul wants it to be. This place could be like a place that is found on Earth, or like a place from a science fiction or fantasy novel. As your safe haven is revealed to you, you may see that you are outside in the mountains, or on a beach, or Perhaps you're inside a soap bubble, or flower, or a geode floating through space, looking back at the earth. You may be in a forest or in a coral reef under the ocean waves or in the billowy clouds. Your safe haven might even be in another dimension, on another galaxy or planet. This is the place that makes you feel the most at ease, the safest and the freest. Now look around you. What can you see? Are there birds or trees here? Are there fish or other animals? If you are outside, what is the weather like here? Spend some time noticing all the things you can see in your safe haven. What can you hear in your safe haven? The wind rustling the leaves in the trees? A beautiful song? The sound of waves crashing? Or maybe the sound of absolute silence? Spend a moment noticing the sounds that fill your safe haven. What can you smell here? Can you smell ocean foam? Or the dampness of soil? Can you smell the scent of bread or cookies baking in the oven? Can you smell the scent of summer rain? Or is it an out-of-this-world smell that you have never smelled before? Spend a moment noticing the smells that linger in the air in your safe haven. Now you are going to create a house in this dwelling. Now you're going to create a house or dwelling in this safe haven. Since you are the designer and builder of your safe haven, you get to decide exactly how you want it to be. You may design a palace or a treehouse or a monastery or even a simple rustic cabin. Inside this place are beds where your child self can choose to lie down and rest or sleep. The beds can be ordinary beds or they can be nests or forts. Design whatever beds feel the most inviting to you. You can make this house and the beds in it out of anything you wish, real or imagined. If you have built some rooms, are there windows in the rooms? What can you see out of them? If you wish, you can decorate your safe haven both inside and out. Perhaps you would like to leave it simple and natural. Perhaps you would like to adorn your safe haven with rays of light or flowers or special rocks or crystals or shells. Perhaps there are hand-woven rugs, should you wish to lie down. What materials have you chosen? Who made them? Choose the decorations you love. Now somewhere in the safe haven, see a water feature. This might be an ocean or a fountain, a stream or a lake. It may be a bathtub, hot tub, or shower. And imagine that this water is special water. It's magic water. Anything that touches it is instantly healed. See the water shimmering and the sparkling in the light. What color is the water? Is it clear or opaque or iridescent? Maybe it's turquoise or purple or gold. This is going to be where you bathe and heal your child's self as she comes to the safe haven. Now imagine that in your safe haven there is a kind of loving being or person who is strong enough to assist you and tend to the safe haven. Your safe haven is where this being or person lives. This safe support figure is a being or person who is so transcendent that he or she is able to calmly and lovingly assist with anything he or she may come across. This is your own personal helper. Who is this being or person? Is it a character from a novel you read once? Is it an imagined person? Is it a person you admire, such as Jesus or the Buddha? Is it someone you know and trust, such as a grandmother who has passed? Is it an angel or benevolent extraterrestrial being? Or maybe a favorite superhero? What is his or her name? Spend some time acquainting yourself with this special being. Know that this being that lives in your safe haven will be there for you anytime you want or need. Breathing freely and easily, look about your peaceful safe haven and see if there is anything else that you wish to add. For example, maybe you would like to add animals, real ones or fantasy animals. Just take a moment to decide what would make this safe haven feel even more perfect to you and add it to the scene. Now imagine that in this peaceful space there is somewhere for you to sit or lie down, a place that you can come to sink deeply into relaxation and security. Is it a chair, bed, or hammock? Is it a smooth rock or a throne or the edge of a cliff? What does it look like? What color is it? What material is it made of? Now take a seat now in whatever resting place you have designed. No matter where you find yourself resting, feel the tension and stress drain away the peaceful safety of this sacred place. This is the place you can come to and sit and feel at peace anytime you wish. You should wish. It's also the place you can sit and hold your childhood self if you should retrieve this child and he simply wants to be held by you or fall asleep in your lap. Spend some time here observing and listening to and smelling and feeling this perfect place. Let your mind make this imagined place as magical and unbelievably perfect as possible. Whenever you feel ready to rejoin your day-to-day life, imagine yourself slowly standing up and leaving your safe haven. You leave through a doorway that opens only for you in response to your presence, a signal, a code, or a special phrase you recite. Whenever you come here, use your signal or code to gain entry. Take a moment to memorize that special way that you and only you can gain access to your safe haven. Take a look back at this safe haven, knowing that you can come here anytime you wish. Know that you always feel completely content here and completely safe and stress-free. Know that you can change or add to your peaceful sanctuary at any time. At this point, you may proceed to the next part of the completion process, step 2, or if you would rather just return immediately to full consciousness, then proceed to the next 2 paragraphs of the visualization. Once your visit to your safe haven is complete, turn back around and walk through the secret doorway, back through the tunnel that opens up once more, and follow the pathway that brought you to this place. Take a few deep breaths. Decide for yourself if you are ready to return. If you are, bring your attention back to the full awareness of your body lying on the bed or sitting on the chair. Feel yourself being in the firm contact with the earth. Tune into the movements of the breath in your body and gradually externalize your awareness, listening to the sounds in the room and feeling the air against your skin. When you're ready, gently open your eyes and reacclimate to your real-life surroundings. Let me grab a quick water sip. Returning to the completion process. As we progress through the completion process, we will find ourselves changing or adding things to our safe haven. This is normal. As your childhood self comes to the safe haven and enters with her own desires and preferences, we will see a great many additions to this place. For example, one part of your childhood self might want a sandbox, so a sandbox will become a part of the safe haven. Another part of your child self may want a unicorn to keep her company, so a unicorn may be added to the safe haven. You may decide that you want to change the house for children to live in, or build a second one in a completely different style, just to suit your childhood selves whenever you come to stay. You may even wish to add beloved relatives to your safe haven. There is no limit to what you can do to enhance your own safe haven, so it becomes your own sacred mental paradise. Trust it to evolve over time in exact accordance with what is best for you. Step 2. Emotional Vipassana. I don't know if that's how that's pronounced. Is it Vipassana? Now we practice emotional Vipassana. Whenever you experience a strong, uncomfortable emotion or feeling in the present, close your eyes and sink into the feeling. As you do, familiarize yourself with the unique sensations or feeling flavor of that uncomfortable feeling. Ensure that you are unconditionally with that feeling, truly experiencing it and observing it without needing to change it. After a time, see if you can name the feeling. If thoughts arise, just observe them in a detached way, as if they are rising like bubbles in the mind, and let them be there. You can do this step with yourself anytime, regardless of whether there is a particular feeling present. It's simply much easier and more impactful when a strong emotion is present. This step, along with step 3, are the 2 most crucial parts of this entire completion process. If you did not do any other part of this process, this would be enough, because this is the step that facilitates emotional integration. Here's how this step works. When the average person begins to feel emotional pain, he subconsciously interprets that pain as something that is trying to hurt him. We feel like an underdog to our own pain. If emotional pain is a chronic aspect of someone's life, then this subconscious interpretation leads to a kind of living hell. When we think that an emotional pain is trying to hurt us, it begins to feel like we are living with an enemy inside our own skin, as if an aspect of ourselves has turned against us and is trying to destroy us. But because it's inside us, we can't escape it. From this point forward, it's better to view emotional pain in a different way. Instead of viewing it as a trying to hurt us, we need to view it as desperately crying out for our help. We need to adopt the perspective that our pain is like a child who doesn't know how to make itself feel better. It's doing everything it can to get our attention so we can take care of it. And to take care of it, we must first embrace it and listen to what it's trying to convey. In other words, our emotions are like messengers, and we must embrace emotional pain and listen to what it is trying to tell us. By allowing the feeling, listening to it, experiencing it, and being completely with it, the lost aspects of ourselves are allowed to rejoin us. We also receive the message that the emotional pain is trying to send us. This is why you will find that effortless realization and insight so often accompanies this step. You can imagine what is happening in this step by thinking of yourself standing in a house. Imagine that your child self is outside the door, crying and trying to get in. You could try to avoid the child and avoid the child's desperation to join you in the house, or you could go open the door and let the child in. When you go in the direction of your emotions and experience them by opening yourself up to them, then you are, in essence, opening the door for your child self to rejoin you and thus fully integrate with you. I'm getting some mic clipping, I'm sorry about that. So during this step, you essentially stop running from the tornado that is chasing you and run right into it instead. Once you develop a willingness to feel, eventually, your emotions will no longer frighten you. This is the beginning of true and lasting peace, from which so many good things are possible. You'll no longer feel any need to try to sedate, control, and avoid your negative emotions. Self-medication will no longer be needed. Your emotions are the truest representation of who you are. When you move away from the way you feel, you are doing the same thing to yourself that a parent might do when he or she moves away from a child who is crying to be held, fed, or changed. This step is important because it allows us to consider that if we have a strong emotional feeling, there must be a good reason to feel that way. In other words, there must be a genuine reason why we are experiencing such intense emotion. In today's world, there are plenty of escape routes to take to run away from the truth of oneself and the current moment. But you will soon find that every one of these escape routes is a dead end. You will run and run and run until you realize that the running will never end. It's the running away that is, in fact, torturing you. By giving yourself your unconditional attention and presence in the face of an uncomfortable emotion, without being in a hurry to get over it, you are giving yourself the unconditional love that you did not get enough of when you were young. This is what is really doing the healing. Nothing on this earth is more healing than unconditional focused presence. Let me see if I can fix the mic real quick. It's still clipping, I don't know why. That is strange. Not sure why that's happening. I might have to just deal with it, honestly. Physical sensations. My entire mixer has been acting really weird all day today. Might need a hard reset. Physical sensations may arise. When you are doing this part of the process, don't be surprised if you begin experiencing extreme sensations in your body. When an aspect of your consciousness rejoins you, it can give rise to dramatic sensations, not unlike the sudden injection of a drug into your system. The drug might make you feel as if your whole body is tingling, or as if you're expanding or shrinking, or that your skin is on fire. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you experience tactile hallucinations. How do we pronounce this? Lilliputian hallucinations, where you might feel very tiny or very large, or see things around you in distorted sizes, and physical sensations that are disorienting or painful. Know that it is not uncommon to feel these things, and you will get through it. In fact, when this happens during the completion process, it's actually a really good thing. It means that you are integrating the emotion with the rest of yourself in the now, as if a puzzle piece is being clicked back into its correct place. My recommendation is to breathe through these strong sensations and surrender to them with the intention of allowing them to run their course. Sometimes when we focus on the feeling, it intensifies, while at other times, just the fact that we are willing to be present with the way we feel brings us relief. Just let whatever surfaces surface and let whatever changes change. On occasion, people will experience numbness as a result of doing this part of the exercise. It's as if the attention to the emotion makes it go away, but in reality, it has not gone away. Some people even fall asleep. If this happens, the person is encountering a defense mechanism within himself or herself. The defense mechanism is unconsciousness. Sometimes, when our emotions are too painful and we can't do anything about them, we cope by becoming unconscious of the way we feel, or even becoming unconscious in general. If this happens to you, treat it like any other response. Stay present with your unconsciousness. It is a layer that you need to let yourself sink into and drop through the bottom of. In other words, treat any numbness you feel like it is its own emotion that you would lovingly and unconditionally experience. If you fall asleep, let yourself fall asleep. If you experience hopelessness or frustration because the feeling went away, then experience that feeling fully. Welcome any and all experiences and feelings, because that is the way you will heal. Dealing with hopeless feelings or mental stories. You may run into a thought you may run into a thought and subsequent feeling of "I can't" at this stage of the process. Be aware that this is just a reflection of the hopelessness that you felt long ago. Talk about getting tired. My eyes are getting tired. I wish I had my glasses. They're still broken. When people struggle with shadow work, it's usually because there is a layer of hopelessness, such as the feeling that this idea won't work, that needs to be integrated before they can progress. Be present with whatever arises regarding of what it is. We don't have a goal for this process. We are not in a rush. Our purpose for doing it is to rejoin ourselves in whatever is true right here and now. If at any point in the process the feeling becomes difficult or unbearable, you can get through it by making sure that you breathe deeply and deliberately. The breath can create space within you for the emotion so you can stay with it. Imagine your breath embracing the emotion. During this step, we want to stay with the sensations of the feeling, not the mental story about it. For example, I feel unwanted is a story about a sensation. I feel heaviness or buzzing is a feeling. In order to truly get out of the mental story and into the feeling, try to describe, recognize, or notice anything you can about the unique quality of the sensation of the emotion or feeling. Sometimes you need to let it play out around inside you and even spread throughout your whole body. Welcome it more and more and see if you can name the feeling. Familiarize yourself with it. The stronger the emotion is, the easier this will be. Don't be surprised if strong emotional reactions come up as a result of being with your emotion. For example, you might find that you begin weeping uncontrollably or shaking. I encourage you to fully allow these reactions to flow. Don't suppress them in any way. Often emotional energy needs to move. This is incredibly healing. The body is clearing itself. If you are facilitating someone with this process, and the person doing the process begins to cry, you might notice that she is tempted to try to compose herself. It's natural, but it actually impedes healing. It is better to gently encourage her to allow whatever reaction she is having while staying present with the feeling. Recognizing cover emotions. With this step, we learn to become aware of cover emotions. Cover functions exactly like ice on the surface of a deep lake. In the same way that the ice covers the water, a cover emotion exists to cover another emotion below it. Ice on a lake prevents you from falling through and into the water. And in the same way, the cover emotion prevents you from sinking into and feeling the emotion that it is designed to cover. Cover emotions exist to keep us out of lower vibrational states. They are natural defense mechanisms within the emotional body. Anger is often a cover emotion for fear, just as hatred is often a cover emotion for hurt. Desperation is often a cover emotion for despair. Oops. Numbness is often a cover emotion for shock or confusion. When we are completely present with an emotion, we often drop into an even deeper level of emotion. It's a bit like an emotional version of falling through the ice into the deep water below. If we feel as if we have encountered a cover emotion, we can ask ourselves, what is below this? If you are facilitating someone in the process, you can ask the person, what's underneath this feeling? Is there something deeper or more painful there? In this way, we encourage ourselves or someone else to metaphorically fall through the ice. Once the person goes deeper, he or she will have greater access to the causation of the real emotion. The real emotion is the one that the cover emotion might be trying to save or rescue him or her from. If we feel particularly resistant to this part of the process or feel like we can't allow ourselves to be pulled more deeply into the emotion, we need to ask ourselves, am I ready to go into this feeling? This question places us in an attitude of choice. In choice, there is freedom. Often the emotions that we are most resistant to are feelings of powerlessness. Making a choice about whether or not to be with a feeling powerlessness is in itself, I don't know why I always have difficulty saying this, is in itself empowering. And honestly, sometimes when we need for our healing, sometimes what we need for our healing is to just recognize that we have choice. For this reason, we must honor the answer regardless of what it is. We have to do what we don't want to do. There's a huge difference between doing something that scares us and that we really don't want to do, and doing something that scares us but that we really do want to do. Truly, we should only be doing the latter. Therefore, if you are facilitating someone in the completion process, you must let him choose. You must give the other person the reins to steer his own life. This is the only way lasting healing can occur. If someone doesn't feel ready and doesn't want to go into a feeling, even with the reassurance that you're there with him, you need to give him permission not to enter that emotion. If this happens, then I recommend that you help him to be present with the emotions that arise as a result. I believe that we especially need to help the other person feel the feeling of empowerment that comes as a result of getting to choose. If we feel as if we are being pulled out of the emotion, but we really are ready to be with it, we can imagine seeing, feeling, sensing, or hearing ourselves being separated from whatever is pulling us out of the feeling. For example, if you're the one going through the process, you could see your mind pulling you out of the emotion with ropes or strings. Then you can imagine lovingly and knowingly, and with gratitude for the mind because it's trying to save you, cutting those cords or strings so that you fall away from the mind and into the emotion. Where are we at here time-wise? About half an hour? Okay. Step 3. Validate the present feeling. In this step, we give the emotion or feeling the message that we are completely with it, that we see it as valid, that we care about it, that we are ready to listen, that we want to know what it has to say, and that we are open to fully receiving it. That is the validation that we didn't get growing up. This is the unconditional love that we didn't get, quite likely because the people in our lives didn't know how to give it. This is what we have been wanting all our lives, and to give this gift of validation to ourselves is life-changing. This step is the opposite of self-abandonment. It allows your intense emotional feeling to offer up to you the memory that is attached to. It's what makes your subconscious feel safe enough to offer up the original source of feeling to your conscious awareness. You may choose the affirmative mantras during this step to deepen your ability to truly allow the emotion to feel validated, to trust your presence, and truly accept the validation you offer. As long as it feels strong to you, any affirmative mantra will do. Here are some examples of statements that people might repeat to themselves or say out loud. I'm completely here with you, or with this, right now. I'm here with you in this. I'm here with you no matter what. I am open and ready to feel this. I am open and willing to receive anything you want or need to show me. I choose to feel this unconditionally. I welcome this feeling. Basically, any words that help you complete the first level of validation are worth saying and repeating because they will help you stay calm and focused. The reality is that the feeling is valid. It is there for a reason. It has meaning, and it is part of you. That is why it is so important for you to validate it to yourself. Step 4. Invite the memory to surface. In this step, use the sensations of the feeling flavor as if they were a rope connecting you to the origin or causation of that very feeling. Ask yourself, when was the first time I felt this feeling? Instead of mentally chasing the answer, let your being offer it up to you, like a bubble floating up from the depths of the ocean. We don't need to conceptually re-experience full memories to integrate an aspect of ourselves that is frozen in the past. Sometimes just being with a feeling enables us to integrate the emotional charge of a memory, which might be the only part that is frozen or stuck. The actual memory never surfaces. If we only need emotional integration, a tangible memory is unlikely to come. If we become consciously aware of an actual memory, we are meant to gain wisdom from mentally re-experiencing and interacting with it. In other words, we are meant to become aware of that memory because, in doing so, we are assisted in our current development. Often the mind and the emotion both are in need of healing and integration. When this is the case, memories surface as a result of asking the question, when was the first time I felt this exact feeling? Another way to approach this is to ask the feeling itself as if it were a separate being. When was the first time I felt you? Keep in mind, when we have a limited view of memory, we rely on the visual aspect of our lives so heavily that we forget that there are many different kinds of memory. Our bodies can remember sensations, smells, sounds, or feelings, so just because you don't see anything doesn't mean you aren't getting back a memory. Also, because we were feeling beings instead of thinking beings when we were very young, some of the earliest memories we have consist of only emotional or sensation memory. For example, if a person who is recalling a memory in the womb of a mother who didn't want the pregnancy will often not see anything. Instead, she might have an intense, all-consuming feeling of being stuck and unwanted. It's tempting when we want to understand why we feel the way we feel to try and rush this process. We might try go looking for the memory mentally, but doing it this way, we tend to get ourselves off track. Instead, I recommend that you learn to take a back seat and treat the inside of your body as if it were a movie screen. Simply wait, watch, and feel for what shows up on its own. Don't forget, it may appear in the form of an image, a smell, a taste, or a feeling. Work with whatever kind of memory surfaces, no matter how fragmented it may seem. Work with whatever comes up, even if it's not what you expected. Trust that your being knows what needs integration, and be open to surprises. If you doubt the realness or the truth of what you are remembering, try to set that thought aside by simply letting it be there, and continue to remain open to whatever other things come up. At this point, it's not about how true or untrue or real or not real something is. It's about your being trying to reintegrate itself in the way it feels it needs to. If no memory surfaces after a long period of time, allow yourself to stay longer with whatever sensations are happening in real time. Then decide whether you want to gradually come back to the present moment or whether you want to do a visualization involving your inner child. If you want to do a visualization involving your inner child, imagine that your inner child, at whatever age you intuitively see him or her, is standing or sitting in front of you and is experiencing the exact same emotion that you are experiencing right now. Then jump to step 8 of the completion process with regard to your visualized inner child and go through the remainder of the completion process, just as you would have done if a memory had come to your awareness. Memories are buried deeper for some of us than others. We need to remind ourselves that if no memory comes up, that's okay too. We are doing enough just by being present with ourselves and by offering our being the opportunity to reintegrate in whatever way possible. Step 5. Re-experience the memory. When an earlier memory surfaces, observe it and experience the memory in whatever way it comes to you. Take time to be present with the intensity of the feeling of the memory. You are in essence allowing yourself to emotionally re-experience the original memory. At this point, we want to fully experience the memory as it is. This is just a deeper level of integration. We are taking our emotional vipassana practice in step 2 to the next level. We are gifting our inner child with the same unconditional focused presence that we gave to ourselves earlier. You will often find that as you do this step, even more of the memory reveals itself to you. It unfolds before your eyes and may even begin to make sense. Sometimes when we are in a memory, we will not initially witness it in first-person perspective. We may be observing the event as if it were a narrator or an audience member watching the scene. This is especially true if we are dealing with a memory that was particularly traumatic and caused us to disassociate. However, witnessing it now in first-person perspective is important to integration. So if you're not in the first-person perspective, merge into first-person perspective and experience memory from that point of view. In other words, become your child self in the scene. If you feel that you absolutely can't handle participating in this memory in the first-person perspective, then don't force yourself. Wait until it feels less frightening, and then you may be able. If that feeling does not happen this time, that is okay. You can still progress through the rest of the completion process. With some amount of distance between yourself and your child self who is in the memory. However, keep in mind that if you don't merge into first-person perspective in the memory, you will most likely have to return to this memory at a later date when you are ready to do so. You'll simply integrate more of yourself each time you return. Think of it as the difference between taking a bite out of a cookie and eating the whole thing. Step 6. Validate the feeling within the memory. This is the point where you let the emotion from the past are completely with it. This is the point where you let the emotion from the past know you are completely with it, that you see it as valid, that you care about it, that you are ready to listen, and that you want to know what it has to say. Give yourself permission to fully receive the message from this original emotion, the one that arose in Step 5. Step 6, in conjunction with Step 5, forms crucial aspects of memory work related to trauma. Many people who are familiar with trauma know that disassociation can be triggering by trauma. Dissociative states are psychological states where someone separates his or her experience. Disassociation is a defense mechanism that enables us to avoid unpleasant experiences. There are mild and severe forms of it. At the mildest end of disassociation, a person could simply daydream instead of focusing on what she is doing or experiencing in the moment. Or a person might go numb. At the severe end of the disassociation spectrum, a person might detach from her reality completely and start to experience periods of time where she loses a sense of her own identity or creates new identities. Earlier in the book, we discussed the fact that everyone has experienced trauma, and therefore everyone has experienced post-traumatic stress to some degree. Today's common wisdom seems to indicate that disassociation is a symptom of post-traumatic stress, but the real truth is quite the opposite. Disassociation is, in fact, the cause of post-traumatic stress. Consciousness can divide itself. We live in a universe where the only reason you perceive yourself as one person throughout time is because your own consciousness is arranging that perception for you for the purpose of learning. We covered this idea briefly in Chapter 4 when we learned about time. This means, even though we perceive ourselves as singular, finite beings, this is an illusion. As we discussed in a previous chapter, our consciousness can split itself in the same way that a river splits off into streams. And this is exactly what the consciousness is doing when someone disassociates in a moment of trauma. Part of the person Part of the person goes forward while part of him or her branches off and remains stuck at the moment of trauma because it feels it cannot go through the experience. In essence, then, an aspect of our being is frozen in time, like skipping a CD. The part of yourself that disassociated never progresses past the moment in the song, but just keeps replaying itself over and over in your unconscious mind. When we dissociate, we don't allow ourselves to actually experience what is occurring. This may serve us in the moment because it enables us to focus all our energy towards surviving either mentally, emotionally, or physically, or all three. Because the consciousness splits off during the moment of trauma, your brain stores traumatic memory in a different way than it would store normal memories. Traumatic memories are not processed or integrated into a person's ongoing life in the same way that normal memories are. This is one reason why it's often so difficult for people to consciously recall their traumatic memories. Some years down the line, when we have achieved safety, the old memory, especially the emotions associated with the memory, begin to try to reintegrate it. This is when we start having flashbacks or begin to feel triggers. In order to become whole again, we must reintegrate the aspect of ourselves that was split off in the moment of trauma. And to do that, we must experience the memory that we disassociated from. We must, in essence, re-experience the traumatic experience that caused a part of ourselves to dissociate. Experiencing the memory. This part of the completion process is where we can move through the re-experience of a memory from first-person perspective and thereby allow our fragmented self, the one that was stuck in the past, to rejoin us in the present and to find resolution. This is the real way to cure post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, if you don't have PTSD, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with me? The truth is that there are mild forms of disassociation that occur when someone experiences any traumatic event that they cannot resolve in the moment. And any disassociation leads to a split consciousness or a self-split. Part of you does not move forward in the now. So, for example, small children at a birthday party for their brother or sister might become jealous because they aren't getting any presents. They are too young to understand why they are being excluded, and this can be traumatic for a child. If the child is shamed for the feeling of jealousy, the child then has to find a way to reject and therefore suppress the aspect of self that felt jealous. He must disassociate from the aspect of himself that felt jealous, but that aspect of self that felt jealous didn't go away. It stayed frozen at the moment it disassociated from the child, and it became a subconscious aspect of the self, because the law of attraction is still responding to it. The person will attract reflections of that lost self that felt jealous. The reflections felt in the present day will be circumstances and events in his adult life that cause him to feel jealous. The unintegrated jealous self is being triggered in an effort to try to rejoin the rest of the human being who it belongs to. So this adult might feel jealous of a coworker who is getting all the attention at work. The first adult has no idea that this strong jealous emotion is in fact just a reflection of a past event he doesn't even remember related to the part of himself that disassociated from himself or a small child at the birthday party. By re-experiencing the memory, this time fully experiencing it, the adult is able to move through the memory and reunite himself. This is done by completely. Wait. Oh, my eyes are truly getting tired. This is done by being completely with the strong emotional feeling, affirming that it is valid, affirming that it is cared about, and that the person is ready and willing to hear what the memory wants him to know. This approach is the exact opposite of the way the strong emotion was approached the first time around, which was with an unwillingness to deal with it. This time as adults going through the completion process, we are demonstrating that we are now open to fully receiving it. Long ago, by disassociating, we sent ourselves the message that we would not be there with ourselves during a difficult experience. For the sake of survival, we unconsciously gave ourselves the message that we didn't have our own backs and we were not there for ourselves. Now, during this step 6, the healing action we take is that we give ourselves the opposite message, the healing message. I am here with myself, and so I am not alone in this. I care about you, my child self, and the way you feel is important and valid. A memory beneath a memory. Sometimes a memory will surface from your adult life or teen life. This occurs before we move on to the next steps of the process. We use the memory to see if there is anything deeper. Usually when we have an upsetting memory that comes from our teenage years or our adult life, it's not the root memory. It is instead an earlier reflection of the root memory, which has usually occurred between conception and age 8. You'll remember that earlier I described cover emotions, which exist to cover up or mask our deeper, more painful emotions. This memory or this memory of a teenage or adult trauma is a bit like a cover in that it is merely a reflection and not the one that's started it all. So at this point, we would want to encourage ourselves to fall through the ice with this memory the same way that we fell through the ice to figure out the deeper emotions. For this work, we must be fully merged in the first-person perspective with our child self again and ask the question, when was the first time I experienced this exact same feeling? Remember, it's crucial to witness reflective memory in first-person perspective if we are to use that memory to access the even earlier memory. So merge into the first-person perspective in the teenage or adult memory before trying to go deeper into an earlier memory. When an earlier memory surfaces, repeat steps 5 and 6 with this memory before continuing with the rest of the completion process. You don't need to come back to a reflective memory unless you feel compelled to do so, because by altering the causation in the deeper memory, you automatically affect the later memory that is casually linked to it. Be aware that it's possible that if a later memory is traumatic, we need to move all the way through the completion process with that later memory, one that happened past age 8, before we can go back and access an earlier memory that it is casually linked to. Remain open to doing it in this way. If the earlier memory will not come to your awareness at a given time, when you feel as if you have completely surrendered to experiencing the memory, whatever way it comes up, and you feel the release or relief that comes as a result of no longer resisting the experience of it, you can then move on to the next step. Whew, what a marathon that was. And that's going to do it for steps 1 through 6. I believe that was right. Yeah, steps 1 through 6 of the completion process. Safe haven and accessing the memory. I think this is a very interesting and fitting day for me to do this reading because I just got off my stream and we were talking about therapy, and the guys were debating whether or not, it would be a good thing for me. The thing that I like about the completion process is because unlike traditional therapy, this is something you can 100% do by yourself. And I feel like if there was a form of therapy or self-help that would be good for me, it would definitely be this. Not saying, you have to do this by yourself, as she already stated in the book. If you feel like, if you feel like you need a guide through this process, you could definitely have somebody sort of work you through it. But this is a way for you to really dive deep, and sort of get at the root a little bit quicker than probably a traditional therapist would be. Again, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a teacher, consult your doctor, all that good stuff. But yeah, I just found this to be very fitting considering we're just an interesting synchronicity that we just started this today, and I didn't even really think I was going to do a reading today, but I think it worked out considering the topic that I just concluded having on my stream. But anyway, that's going to do it for the reading today. I'll be back with more of the completion process, hopefully sometime soon. The next one is another long one, so I'm going to need to set probably another hour aside to chip through this one. Hopefully I can get it done on a day that I'm a little bit more awake. I'm surprised I was able to do that without falling asleep because my eyes are very tired at the moment. But the next reading that will be up on the channel will be from the Kybalion, so stay tuned for that. Will be up sometime this week, and then we'll continue with more of the completion process if you're primarily here for that. shortly after, so stay tuned for that as well. But that's going to do it for me. If you enjoyed the reading, make sure you drop a like on the video. That would be much appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Right now I'm pretty much just uploading readings, but I do have other content that I plan to get around to eventually. Probably going to be talking about some writing stuff pretty soon. I think a lot of the writing stuff that I'm going to be working on, so a good amount of it is stuff that's carrying over from last year, because last year I really did not get much of anything done. But in regards to the Phantom Pages, the Avid Entry sort of stuff, things are going to start picking up a little bit, especially this month in July with that. So I might do an update, a short little update vlog probably, but nothing too massive like last time, because I would rather talk about things that are as they are coming out, rather than things that are in the pipeline and then I just never get around to doing them. So yeah, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys in the next video coming very soon. So take care. Later.